What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer and Bob Morton live on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel on a Tuesday night, a few days ahead of Notre Dame's pivotal matchup against Texas A&M. Folks, if you're watching live, watch it back. Please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content. And this show, as always, is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Tailgate season is here, and no one's going to get you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. So swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend and get gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana and a new one coming to Mishawaka at the end of the month, those in the Hoosier State have plenty of options to shop in store. But again, go to academy.com as well if need be. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Bob, you doing all right, my friend?
I'm good, man. Solid 9 out of 10 today. Can't complain.
Solid 9 out of 10.
Let's go.
What is holding it back from being a total 10 out of 10?
You know what? You're not feeling super well. You know what I mean? When my guy's feeling the flu a little bit, it's going to take its toll on my day a little bit too.
I hope I don't have the flu, but I did tell Bob and joked about on the message board and Twitter that this is my flu game. I am not feeling very well. So yeah, I don't know where we got it from, but I'm pissed at that person. My daughter got sick first, and then my wife yesterday, and now I got it today, and it's been tough. So
yeah.
All right, well, let's dive into the topics today, Bob. Like, I know we were texting a lot about the UTSA Texas A&M game to start the season for the Aggies.
Yeah.
And then they didn't look great. Who did they play last week? It was another lower level
Utah
team,
State.
right?
Utah State.
And they won by, it was like 42-21 or something like that.
Yeah, 42-24.
So it seems like they haven't looked great. Like, what have you seen from A&M in their first 2 games? Like, for folks not familiar with the Aggies, haven't watched them since the last year in the opener, like, what do we need to know about Texas A&M?
Yeah, I think one of the nice things for the Notre Dame team, and one of the things that I've appreciated in getting to see them for 2 weeks, is we've had 2 first halves of football, right? I think that whenever you're playing in a game, anything after halftime is adjustment based. It's based on what the opposition is doing in the game. But we've been able to see, the offense for A&M come out the first half in 2 games where they've only seen us come out, albeit slowly, once against Miami. The thing that I've seen from them, they're obviously kind of a run-dominant team. You're going to see 1 or 2 tight ends. You're going to see a lot of zone read. They've got a lot of experience in their offensive line, although I haven't really seen that play out in terms of the dominance you would expect against San Antonio and Utah State. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Utah State scored a little bit more late in the game when you had some other guys rotating in. But UTSA, I was texting you, even before their running back, opened the third quarter with a 75-yard run, he was averaging 10 yards a carry, had 100 yards in the first half. And so, again, A&M has brought back a lot of starters on both sides of the ball, but they have not really, I think, put their foot on the neck of the opponents they've played so far. It's been pretty vanilla in terms of game plans. I think defensively, I'd expect Elko to have some more wrinkles for us than he did against those 2 opponents. But, when you're giving up 10 a carry, and even Utah State was averaging 5 a carry for most of the game, I think there are some things that we want to capitalize on as we improve from week 1 to week 3 going into this weekend's game.
Do you have any takes? And the answer can just be no, but do you have any takes on their quarterback, the Marcel Reed kid?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I remember Reed's first game, and last year for that week, he was my favorite player in the entire country because he kicked Brian Kelly's ass. You know what I mean? He came in and ran the zone read for 3 scores, and LSU couldn't stop him. And then they went on kind of a bit of a skid, and the reason is because what he does really, really well is something that can be prepared for, right? They run the zone read a lot. He's an option on almost any handoff that he has. And so you're looking at him against Utah State. I think he was the leading rusher. Against UTSA, he was the second leading rusher. They have a lot of people they want to get the ball, but what they want him to do is hand the ball off, get to the edge when he can, and sit in a clean pocket. What he does not do well is work through a progression, and he has a tendency to hold onto the ball too long. And if we don't get a sack after 2.5 seconds, he throws the ball up with a prayer a lot, and has even the first 2 games of the season. So it's something that we want to make sure that we're kind of keeping him contained and in the backfield, because that's beneficial for us on the defensive side of the ball.
How many pups you got, Bob?
What was that?
How many dogs do you have?
I've got 2 dogs, but they bark anytime somebody comes home. So I'm pretty sure my wife just showed up with some of the kids, and they're just going crazy because somebody gets to come in the front door.
What kind of dogs?
So they're both mutts, but they've got some Australian Shepherd in them. So I've got an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old Australian Shepherd mix, and they just rile each other up nonstop.
I love it. I had a roommate once who had an Australian Shepherd, and I worked from home. This would have been like 2015 or 16. I worked from home, and he worked at a pool place, and I was just with the dog all the time, a little puppy. And I was so mad that because he got the dog when we were already roommates. I was like, dude, do not get this dog. You're not going to be here to train it. Sure enough, man, that dog would go take a dump and all the time. And it got to a point where my roommate was just like, whatever. Like, anyways.
Good story, Mike.
Australian Shepherds, man. It's yeah. You know what? For that, Bob, for that comment right there, I'm gonna make you predict the game. And you don't like score predictions, but I'm gonna make you do a score prediction for this one, folks. This episode is brought to you by ESQ, which is seen on all of your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches, and founded by Notre Dame alum Ga Wang. ESQ is your go-to spot for the best handmade custom suits, sport coats, tuxedos, shirts, and more. ESQ's master tailors combined next level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com. Mention blue and gold at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase. As I like to mention, that's my photo of Marcus Freeman from a few years ago. So fired up. Met Jay Carr at that game. Poster Jay Carr. What a legend. His dad was much cooler than him. Anyways, esqclothing.com. Check it out. If you want to look your best, feel your best, you definitely want to go to esqclothing.com. So check it out there. All right, Bob, let's continue to kind of dive into Notre Dame, Texas A&M. With you being a former offensive lineman for the Fighting Irish, love to dive into the trenches. So, like, man, after what seeing Notre Dame against Miami and some struggles there in the trenches, and seeing A&M, like, do you feel like who has the edge? When it comes to up front, like, yeah, skill players are can make games or make some big time plays in games, but as the cliche is, but it's very true, the game's won, lost in the trenches.
Yeah, I think whoever has the ball has the advantage when it comes to the line play. And I feel pretty confident in that, especially since I think we're going to be committed to running the ball and getting downhill. I think obviously you're going to have the RPO package that is a staple in the Denbrock offense. I do think that they're going to have some plays where they take the pass option away, and they're just going to give it to 4 and 24 out of the backfield.
Something Freeman talked about in his press conference on Monday.
Yeah, and just kind of simplify and really just get downhill, and then maybe open up the RPOs once they commit more people to the box. Because it just when you're set on this RPO, there are defenses and ways that you can kind of like show more in the box than you're really playing. And you can kind of just have those tweener players on the outside, and it can just be really difficult to read. And I think when you're going against an Elko defense, you need to expect kind of more exotic formations and blitz packages and pressure packages. So I think that we're just going to kind of simplify it and say, if UTSA can go 10 yards a carry so can we. And I think that you've had 10 days for an offensive line to not just um, to not just get back to the drawing board to redesign run plays, but to sit there and say, hey, listen, like, we're going to keep the same rushing plays, but we've got to get downhill. We can't just be lateral moving. We can't just try and open up gaps. We've got to move the line of scrimmage. And so I think that our offensive line will do well running the ball. And then Texas A&M, they've got, 60 out of 65 starts from last year are back. You know what I mean? They've got some experience on the front of their line, returning 5 starters. They are committed to running the ball. They've got a very set scheme where they've got the read option, and then they build the play action on top of that can really neutralize teams with a good pass rush. I wouldn't necessarily say we are one of those teams at this point in time. But I think that, again, the longer that Reed stays in the pocket and gets a little bit of pressure in his face, this line hasn't been great at keeping a clean pocket historically with him. I think if we can get people in his face, he's going to put the ball kind of over some receivers, and our safeties could have a nice day on the back end. So trench-wise, I do think the offensive lines for both teams do have an advantage in this game. I also think both defenses are going to be really creative with what they show. I don't think we're just going to rush 4 and drop everybody back again. I think we would give up a lot of rushing yards that way. And I don't think Elko is going to play the vanilla defense he did against these two kind of warm-up teams that they faced. You're muted. That's 3rd show in a row, Mike.
Oh, good for one a show.
There it is.
There it is. And just getting some feedback from you, Bob. That was weird. I think it's okay now. So the Notre Dame's a 7-point favorite. We're going to get into predictions in a bit, but Notre Dame's a 7-point favorite. Over under is at 49.5, which is about what it was for Notre Dame Miami. I think it just really depended on when you bet, if you did.
Yep.
Because final score 27-21 or 4, which is 51. So the line really was between like 49.5 and 52.
Yeah.
Do you like the over or the under? In other words, low scoring, high scoring? Like it seems like, and I don't know if we're talking about the two like teams that are really going to lean on the running game.
Yeah.
Clock may tick pretty quick. Like what do you think?
Yeah, I think just because these teams rely on the running game doesn't mean it's going to be like it's not going to be an academy style game, right? It's not going to be, like 3 possessions, in a half between these two teams. I think that both teams have some explosive players and explosive plays and ways to get the ball downfield. As much as Texas A&M commits to running the ball, I mean, they've got several receivers, but 2 that I think are worthy of causing us to sweat and stress just a little bit on the outside. And so I even though I think my score that you make me give might come in on the under, I'm probably thinking more that this game is more likely to go to the over, just because I think once explosive plays kind of come, it's going to be going back and forth between these two teams. I don't see either of these defenses as showing that they've been super stout against what the other team wants to do to make me think that it's going to be kind of a real grind them out defensive struggle.
Man, I'm in my flu game, and the chat is just cracking me up. I got to stop reading the chat. Bob does most of the talking for the show, so he's locked in, and I'm just like, you guys are just cracking me up over there. I'm really getting ripped in the chat for muting myself. But it's entertainment, folks. So make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel, of course, if you are new here. I'm interested for your thoughts on this, Bob. We talked about last week in our show, like the bye week, and the benefits of that. But like how when an NFL team gets that first round bye, and then like they can be a little rusty. And then that wild card team is hot and can go in and just beat the crap out of them. Like, how much does the bye week help? Does it hurt? Like, you would assume it helps, but like, man, just, I don't know. Am I onto something? I'm really playing devil's advocate. I think it's going to help. because they need to figure some stuff out. But is there anything to like the bye week coming at a bad time?
Yeah, no, I think if this was later in the year, if Notre Dame had won, 3 games in a row going into a bye week, you kind of just want to like set it and forget it and like let's lather, rinse, and repeat, right? But that's not where Notre Dame was coming from. There were a lot more questions than answers coming out of Miami last Sunday night. So rather than look at it like, is it better for Texas A&M to just come in on another week? I think this early in the year with, we were able to stay and get completely healthy. I think that you've got 2 of the 3 best players on Texas A&M's offense. Well, I don't think they're coming in on the injury report, for game day. They are coming in a little bumped and bruised up from last week's action. I think it really is. It's a brand new season for us, right? Somebody said it maybe at the beginning of the show, even like it's playoff football for Notre Dame already. And I think having the extra week to get into that mentality and mindset, it's not going to be a negative for Notre Dame. Right. We're going to be able to come out creatively. We're going to be able to come out assertively. You're going to have the hope is an offensive line and offensive game plan that's going to be downhill and right into the teeth of a defense. And it's going to be a season defining game, right? Yeah. Regardless of what happens, this game is going to define the rest of the season. Yeah. And you have to have the mentality for that. I would say later in the season, in the playoffs, you may be worried about a bye week. But if you're taking the better part of 2 weeks to get that mentality that you're stepping into the playoffs, Texas A&M doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Right. So that mental edge is something that we have to make sure we come in with. And if we do, then we're going to be very happy we had the week 2 bye.
I love it, Bob. And just reading the chat, we had a comment here from Rip Jules, who's still concerned about O-line play or they come ready to bully A&M. And as well, we just talked about that a minute ago. But yeah, there's just something for me that I feel like Notre Dame's going to beat the crap out of A&M. I just do. There's something there. It's a season-defining game for sure. But like, dude, think about Ohio State last year. They lost 2 games, right? They lost to Michigan. They lost to Oregon early in the season. It was like a 37-34 game. They lost in Eugene. Like, just because you lose to Miami, and I think Miami is going to be a playoff team. That's my personal take. Florida State looked good against Bama, but Miami might be the team to beat in the ACC, which actually ACC looks decent this year after some down years. ACC does look good. Like
Florida State coming back really helps the ACC just kind of feel like it belongs in the conversation a little bit.
And Syracuse is just, absolutely tearing it apart. Their quarterback. Steve did have Steve.
If his arm stays on throughout the entire season, throwing the damn ball that much, Mike.
Yeah, I know he was really excited about going to Syracuse because of they really chucked the ball around, and he threw it over like 50 times. But yeah, man, like you played as poorly as you did against Miami, and you only lost by 3 and tied the game up, and Miami's kicker misses that 49-yarder or whatever it was. We could be talking about something completely different. Like everything is in front of Notre Dame. They got the quarterback. Like on September 9th here, I am feeling very optimistic, Bob. Like
yeah.
But this is, and we do have let me see. Is it even in the, it's the next one of the next topics is, do you categorize this as a must-win game? And I want to talk about that in a bit, but like for the context of this season and the playoffs, yes, it is. It is,
and I'll say this, dude. Am I concerned about the O-line play? Will they come ready to bully Texas A&M? I think that there's a big difference in playing a well-schemed defense with the type of athletes that we saw on the edge specifically that gave us problems one-on-one, and facing a really intricate and exotic scheme that Elko always brings. Because I think if you just simplify what you're doing into zone and gap scheme, then your experienced and inexperienced linemen across the front just know it doesn't matter who's in my gap. It doesn't matter who's in my zone. But if I see anybody wearing the other color, I'm going to hit and drive. And you can take, somebody who's, ends up on the ground 5 yards downfield because the running back's going to be right there on that hip. I think the aggression from our O-line can neutralize a really creative defensive game plan, but they've got to come out of their stance and really desire to drive the line of scrimmage forward. And if they don't do that, it'll be a long day. If we're sitting on our heels waiting to see what, the defensive scheme and the blitz package is going to be, that's going to be worse for us than if we dictate the pace of play from our front five.
I talked about this last week, Bob. Like, I feel like when it comes to O-line, I just looked down to see if I was muted. Thank God I was not. For us folk, like just kind of average viewers watching the O-line, I feel like we think because offensive line is just it's just such a physical thing that you just would think if you don't have it, you just don't have it. But you really do feel like as bad as it was against Miami, they can flip a switch and become the O-line that we saw for so much of last year. Like it's doable, right? And that's why you love the bye week.
Not every player on defense can replicate what they saw done against us last week. Not every scheme is going to hit the same way. We're going to be more prepared for the things that got us this past time. We're probably going to simplify maybe the number of schemes that we really try to make sure that, like I've said in the past, rather than giving a defensive lineman a two-way go and trying to just stay in front of them, we're just going to simplify and say we're taking that gap to our left and we're going just full-fledged that direction because, an aggressive lineman who misses 1 out of 10 blocks is better than a passive lineman who misses none. And so we've got to have that aggression. And I think once you do that a couple of times early in a game, all of a sudden you've forgotten who you were 2 weeks ago. That person doesn't exist anymore. You evolve as a player for this 60 minutes, and the person in front of you, it's no longer a chess match. It is just mano a mano going right at each other. And once you get that momentum, it's a pretty nice feeling, and it's hard to have somebody take it from you.
Yeah, Rook Jewel says Freeman's 5-0 after bye weeks, and so there's that. And then also just like think about marquee home games in the Freeman era. They lost the Ohio State game in 2023 at home. That was the market. But otherwise, like these big night games, has Freeman lost? Right?
No, he's done well. I've actually got another thing that I think of just from working at Notre Dame and having been to a lot of these night games, and I've been to night games in other stadiums, and historically I've felt the Notre Dame night experience does not match up to some of the major conferences when you have night games elsewhere in the country. There's just a certain energy that doesn't permeate through the Notre Dame stadium, the entire game. I will say, I feel like Notre Dame might have unlocked something during the playoff game against Indiana.
Okay.
When you look at every TV commercial break, there was something on the video board or going on. It didn't all have to hit. It didn't all have to resonate with everybody, but people stayed on their feet during commercial breaks and the energy stayed in the stadium. We talked about, Hard Rock Stadium, going down to Miami, like they're blasting music that, is not something that 41-year-old Bob's dancing to, but listen, it kept an energy in the stadium that you want in your home field. And if we can find a way in these night games to keep an energy in the stadium, it really grabs back that home field advantage that sometimes we lose because our fans can be a little quiet in certain sections of the stadium. And so my hope is that we see a replay in stadium operations of what we saw at the end of last year to really build up the energy of this game against Texas A&M.
Yeah, JCar says Bob's right. IU game's the best atmosphere I've been to. JCar also said Stanford was a big night game in 2022. Oh, jeez. I mean, no, Stanford was terrible, but Notre Dame was worse that night. Oh, man, 16-14. The coming out party of one Tobias Merriweather. Oh, man, that 22 season was something, huh? Man, some of the worst. Did you go to the Marshall and Stanford games that season?
I was at the Marshall game. I didn't go to the Stanford one, but I was at the Marshall game.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That one was bad. That was bad. I was thinking about that game today because we were at like a little bit of a crossroads for this YouTube channel at that time, because like I was in St. Louis seeing Jeremiah Love and I think Christian Gray, and yeah, they're the part of the 23 class. So I was seeing them, and I was like, I have to prioritize my recruiting coverage over the post game show. Like I need to go see these kids, and for whatever reason, the flight situation just had me getting back to Atlanta, like after the game ended. And I was like, it's Marshall. No one's gonna want to watch the post game show anyways. I ended up rushing my ass home and did a post game show as soon as I could, and that was one of our bigger ones, over years.
Listen, it's the nature of, I think this game and just kind of the fandoms that exist within it, right? Like there's a place for this community that you've built, because when things go well, like we need to know what's exciting more than just the points on the board, and how can this continue and move forward. And on those days where things don't go well, like, how do we make sense of what we just saw, right? And so sometimes that might be, talking heads that are more often than not making things up on the spot, but oftentimes it's the community in the chat that goes back and forth and just gives you a new perspective on how to process what you just watched. And right, I would like the rest of this season to be processing a team that, we look back at the Miami week the same way we look back at Northern Illinois last year, to say that was the moment that this team knew what they needed to do to be something special. And we're going to see, this is week one of that kind of coming out party, if this team really wants to be something special this year.
I just remembered this was we were going to discuss this, and I forgot to send it in the outline. Can we go through your recruitment, Bob?
Sure. Yeah, we absolutely can.
All right. Who all did you have offers from, Bob?
So I had a lot of offers from everywhere. So I was north of Dallas, Texas. So kind of Big 12 country, back when the Big 12 was kind of running college football there for a little bit. And so, you had Texas, OU. I might have had one from this school in College Station, Texas, that kind of sank their claws into me before anybody else. And so in the midst of kind of my recruitment and, talking to coaches everywhere, the only schools that I had visited before I committed were those three that I mentioned: College Station, Texas for Texas A&M, Austin, Texas for UT, and Norman, Oklahoma for OU. Okay.
So what kind of role did A&M play in your recruitment when it came down to it? And like, what was the journey that led you to Notre Dame? Because if I remember, like, you really liked the Aggies.
I did. Yeah. So I was a junior in high school when I committed to Texas A&M. I
committed to A&M.
I was committed, verbally committed.
Wow.
Texas A&M. Yes.
You know what, Bob? Whenever it gets to recruiting season, and I don't want to hear anything from you about, oh man, these kids, they can't keep their word. We're looking at a decommitment.
Like you've asked me to, like, hey, do you want to hop on the message boards every once in a while? Like, that is dangerous territory for me. Okay, because the day that I stepped back from my recruitment, the Texas A&M message boards were not happy with me at all. Listen, like, the fact that I considered leaving Texas and all these things were brought up and signs were put in my yard, it was just not a great time.
But signs are put in your yard.
Just like, so I had a bunch of Texas A&M signs like that from people around my town who had gone there or who were fans there, just different flags, Aggie flags that was kind of, stabbed in my yard. And they wanted to love me with anger. And so, so they weren't very happy about that when I decommitted, and eventually had channeled my recruitment into Notre Dame. So when I decommitted from A&M, I didn't open it up for a boatload of other schools. I opened it up to 3 schools that I was having conversations with, but Notre Dame was my intended school.
Did Notre Dame recruit you before you decommitted?
So Notre Dame was really slow in recruitment back at that time. It was one of those things that they would let you know they're interested, but they would also need to get you, like, essentially approved for admissions before they could offer you a scholarship. That process has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so I had committed to Texas A&M. I got an offer shortly thereafter from Notre Dame, and I stayed in contact with Greg Madison for quite some time. Even while I was at Notre Dame, he would kind of check in every once in a while. I found out that my mom was kind of slipping him information about things at Texas A&M that made me unhappy. So whenever he would talk to me, he'd be feeding me ways that Notre Dame was different than A&M. And I listen. I don't like the fact that my mom, lied to me for an entire year about how Greg Madison was getting all this information. But, in the end, I couldn't be happier that my journey brought me to South Bend and has kept me around here.
I love it. Rip Jewell said, what was your major at Notre Dame?
Yeah, so I started in electrical engineering, and then I smartened up pretty quick, and I moved over to Mendoza College of Business. And so I graduated a degree in accounting. I didn't put that to use at all, and then got my master's degree in theology shortly thereafter.
That's right. And your youth pastor, and now back at Notre Dame for the past several years, working in development. So
yes, sir, absolutely.
How key is this first quarter? I know this is something you want to talk about, Bob. Like when it's 15, minutes in the second quarter. Like, what is it that you really wanted to like? What is it that you're watching for in the first quarter that will, kind of dictate where the game's going to go?
Yeah, so I'll say speed and strength. I'm going to talk defensively and offensively about those two things. I think on defense, when you're dealing with a run and play action offense like Texas A&M, there are trick plays, but there aren't going to be a lot of wrinkles that A&M throws into their offense that we haven't seen, right? They're going to run downhill zone. They're going to run outside zone. They're going to run backside reads with Marcel Reed at quarterback. They're going to run jet sweeps with a bevy of different receivers. And then they're going to run play action, not as much to their tight end, but specifically to their two best receivers on the outside. They're the ones that are getting the majority of the catches and the yards and the touchdowns, and that's Concepcion and Craver. Yeah. So number 7, Concepcion, number 1, Mario Craver. Those are the guys that they want to get the ball to on the outside that can do some damage. If our defense is a step behind in the first quarter, it's gonna be a day that we're kind of like white knuckling, in our chairs or in our stadium seats, just because it's really hard to be a half step behind the read option with a dynamic running quarterback. It's hard to be a half step behind Casey Concepcion, who's one of the best returners in the country, but also has scored on, short slant routes multiple times this year. So we've got to make sure that we really turn loose our defensive guys to play on instinct and try and bottle everything up rather than maybe over-diagnosing like I thought we did 2 weeks ago. Offensively, it's not so much about speed. What I want to see is the commitment to kind of strength and downhill running, right?
You think they'll force feed J Love?
I think we'll force feed J Love. He'll get his touches is what I'll say. He will get his touches. I would see him less as a receiving threat, running routes out of the backfield and more used in screens out of the backfield. Okay. I think that there will be plenty of opportunities where instead of reading the backside end or reading a linebacker for an RPO, we're just accounting for those guys, and we're expecting our offensive line to maybe carry a backside linebacker and know that our running back's going to get 5 yards before that backer can really make any type of play on them. So I want to see just a really like blue collar mentality of rushing attack early, and then let everything build on that, where then let our quarterback kind of have time in the pocket because we've got play action passes rather than a quick game that doesn't really let the running game develop the way we want it to early.
Yeah. I'm all for getting Jeremiah Love the football more. I think everyone can agree that he did not touch the ball enough last week, or 2 weeks ago. But there's also something to you don't want to get too predictable. You don't want to just give him the ball, even though you don't think you should, just because a YouTube commenter thinks you need to get him the ball 20 times instead of 15 times.
But I'll also say this, right? Like, Jeremiah Love is an awesome decoy on 3rd and 3, where you can run an RPO and you can get that first down once in the third quarter when you've been dedicated to running him on a halfback power for most of the game. But if you're going to use him as a decoy for an entire game, then you've lost him.
Yeah.
Right? Like there comes a point in time where by not giving him the ball, you've taken him out of the game plan. And there's just not, there's not another guy on your team that's better with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that some of the critique I had for 2 weeks ago was that he kept trying to jump over people. You know what I mean? Like every single time he had the ball, there were 3 guys in front of him. I'm going to hurdle anyway. And it felt like there was a pressure of chasing the Heisman, a pressure of making the carries count, a pressure of being dynamic that he felt. And when you feed your running back and he's getting 5-6 yards a carry, he's getting 4 or 5 yards a carry, then there's a blue collar mentality that hey, if I can get 4 and get a first down, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
But if I can get 4 and then make one guy miss, that's when the hurdle comes back out because we're about to take this to the house. We've got to make sure that we're advancing the line of scrimmage because we have a quarterback who is starting his second game. We can't put everything on his shoulders just because he was the one bright spot of what we had a week ago. We've got to make sure we're moving the chains forward and we don't get stuck behind them.
Yeah, I felt like J Love was doing all those things because it was like, I don't know when I'm going to get a carry again.
Yep.
So I got to make something happen here because who knows when that's going to happen. Herrick said, I've noticed a first quarter Love, second quarter Price rotation theme. That was the case against Miami. And yeah, he got 1 carry. Love did against the Hurricanes. So it's there's something's got to give. Right? It's like, all right, we want to throw the ball around and showcase our passing offense, but we also want to run J Love a ton. We want to run Jadarian Price a ton. We want to get a Nia. It's like you can't do all of these things to the level that everyone wants. But at the end of the day, if Notre Dame wins, we're not going to really nitpick a ton. I mean, maybe we'll a little bit, but that's kind of how I feel on that. Last thing, Bob, like, looking at like A&M strengths, Notre Dame's weaknesses, like what is concerning you about the Aggies? Like, where do you think they could exploit Notre Dame?
Yeah. So, I mean, I started the show with this, right? Like, I think the offensive lines for both teams can have an advantage. I'm putting a lot of trust that our offensive line is going to kind of put the Miami game behind them. But I do think for me, as much as I haven't seen the A&M line dominate against lesser competition, I also want to recognize that these are guys that are experienced against Notre Dame, experienced against SEC competition. Win, lose, or draw, they've faced some of the best D linemen in the country, and they are committed to running the ball. Their offense is really simple for an O lineman to block running the ball. You run zone right, and the ball could go right. It could be a zone read to the left, or it could end up being a pass. So what makes me nervous is, what gives me hope is the second half of last year, Marcel Reed kind of got bottled up. And you realize if you bottled him up and kept him in the pocket, he didn't have the type of passing ability that could take over and win a game. They brought in 2 big transfer receivers, Concepcion and Cravers, who I think are really key for him. And they want to get the ball out early when they do pass it. If we can keep him bottled up and keep the rushing attack to 3.5 yards a carry, that bodes well for our defense. What makes me nervous is if A&M starts the game and they're averaging 6-7 yards a carry, then the hope that we have is that the Aggies get too cute, right? Because they could just keep running it, and I think they want to just keep running it down our throats until we put 8-9 guys in the box, and they're going to take their speedy receivers, and they're going to try and not even get behind us. They're going to try and get a stop route or a slant route that with the ball in their hands they can take to the house. And that's what concerns me. I think our DBs are going to do a great job keeping the ball in front of them. But if we have missed tackles on the outside, you're only going to get one chance to catch these guys. So there is some of that nerves that's kind of building in me defensively.
I hope your answer to this question is yes. Have you been to Augie's locker room before, Bob?
Man, it's been a long time. But yes, I've been to Augie's locker room.
pretty like this is a pretty special place. Like it's like if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're like, oh my gosh, I did not know that even existed. I want that.
Yes, yeah, and a little bit of everything in the Notre Dame lore there, in there.
100%. So Notre Dame fans will know you love Notre Dame memorabilia and unique, one-of-a-kind Fighting Irish items, and you can find this at one place, and it is Augie's Locker Room, which has a new location as of the fall of 2023. It's so it's not at the spot that Bob saw it at, but 1733 North Ironwood Drive in South Bend. It's just on the street from Notre Dame. So when you're in town for the A&M game this weekend or whatever the case may be, you got to find time for Augie's Locker Room. Check out their wide selection of Notre Dame Stadium pieces, jerseys, helmets, autographs, and one-of-a-kind Rockney items. You can find exclusive Joe Montana signed items and famous sculptor Jerry McKenna's replicas of the bronze statues from around the stadium. Augie gets new stuff in all the time. As I'm scrolling this, there's some things that I haven't seen since I read this ad last time. So check it out, augieslockerroom.com/shop, or go to 1733 North Ironwood Drive in South Bend and see the vintage helmet display dating back to 1890. Give Augie a call during business hours, 574-277-6363. Two quick notes. Bob gave me a verbal commitment. We'll see if he decommits on this one like he did A&M. But Bob says he's doing all the post-game shows with me. That I texted him today. I was like, what do you think? And I was just crossing my fingers like, Bob, just be in for all of them. He's like, I'm in for all of them. I was like, let's go.
Let's do it.
So Eric Hansen will join us for the road games on that show. And for the A&M, yeah, you guys are just stuck with me and Bob. So I'm fired up. The post-game show is always a good time. The other thing, I got a text from Chris Zorch. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this. I don't talk to Zorch a ton, but he texted me a clip of a sit-down interview with Freeman. I don't know when this is from, but an interviewer asked if you could add any past Notre Dame player to this team's roster, who would it be? And Freeman said, man, maybe Bob Morton, we could really use him. he said Zorich.
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah. He's like could go through a lot of different, Montana, Rockets, Golden Tate, like a lot of good players, Manti. But you would say Chris Zorich too?
Well, so here's what I would say, right? I think a couple that come to mind. I mean, I think you can put Joe Alt in that equation.
Damn, yeah.
Right? I mean, with what we need from the left side, I sure wouldn't mind that. I think that so I think Joe Alt is a legitimate one. I think, defensive side of the ball, Zorich is really hard to beat, but I would also say give me a little Justin Tuck action.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, do I want the Justin Tuck that played for Notre Dame that was a defensive end, or do I want that NFL body Justin Tuck that played, 3 technique and just, dominated from the inside when the Giants had 4 guys that could just race to the quarterback. And then I think offensively, there are some fun receivers to think about. I think Rocket was just so special, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just what I felt like of all the people that I've ever watched, that played the game in a different era, that I felt like watching their film was watching modern speed. I felt like
would
Rocket
translate the best.
Yeah, okay. Rocket was one of those guys. And so, yeah, I mean, there's so many great ones to choose from, but I think defensive line would probably where I would go, or give me Joe Alt at left tackle.
Spoken like a true offensive lineman.
Got to. I got to give that 76 some love. You know what I mean? Got to give 76 some love.
It's a decent number. Would it go quarterback like a Quinn or?
Well, why would I do that when we got CJ Carr? There's no saying he's not going to be the best out of all of them. So I didn't say it. I'm just saying you can't say that he's not going to be yet. You're welcome.
Listen, there's no saying that I'm not going to end up with. No, I shouldn't say that. Let me start over. There's no saying that I'm not going to be wake up tomorrow with a 6-pack and 100 pounds less, but it's probably not going to happen.
Probably not. But I mean, you don't know, right?
CJ's got a better chance.
CJ had a better start than a lot of other quarterbacks we've seen wearing the blue and gold.
He did. All right. This was a topic on the message board today. Is Texas A&M a must-win game for Notre Dame? I got a lot of thoughts on this, but I'm curious for how you'll kind of perceive this and where you'll take it. I'll give you the
Yeah,
floor.
so I'll answer. I'm going to answer this as much as I don't want to. Right? I think you have to figure
This
out
is
how.
very media ease, right? Like this
No,
is
no,
some
no.
crap that
I,
you would
I
see on
think
First Take or something.
I think it depends on how close you want to zoom in, right?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think if you zoom out big picture for Notre Dame and the story that Notre Dame wants to keep creating, the teams they want to keep building, the recruiting they want to keep doing, I don't think that this game is a must win for the Notre Dame over the next several years.
Yeah.
But we don't right now care about the Notre Dame of the next several years.
Yeah.
We care about this team. We care about this team that has a chance, a straight line path to the college football playoff. And if those dreams and aspirations have any chance of coming to fruition, the playoffs start on Saturday night. Like it's almost like a win or go home kind of moment, right? So we can change what we desire, next week if things don't go our way, but Notre Dame has to enter the cathedral of college football on Saturday night feeling like, listen, like burn the boats, you know what I mean, and storm the beach. We got no other option.
I love it. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, is Freeman on the hot seat if Notre Dame loses, or is the football program going to shut down? No.
Oh, I
But
thought you were asking me that, and I was going to be like, you need to pump the brakes a little bit. So I'm glad. I just got to pick up your mannerisms a little bit. I agree with you.
On the same page. Yes. But for the context of this season, like zoomed in, like you said, this is what I will, for folks who read me and or read my stuff on the website and watch me on YouTube a lot, which I'm on every damn video, I feel like. I will always say this: 12-0, you're in, obviously, and then you're like a top seed, right?
Yep.
11-1, you're somewhere between the 5 and 10, just depending on the year, right? Even with the freaking NIU loss last year,
Yep.
Notre Dame still had a really good 7th seed, respectable. You go 10-2. I know there will be a lot of folks in the Notre Dame community who would be upset and be like, "Oh man, we're so much better than this 10-2 team that got in. Look at this resume. Look at this." I don't care. If Notre Dame goes 10-2 and they don't get in, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, we were arguing. A lot of people. I wasn't arguing. I didn't think Alabama should be in, but the arguments last year were for a 9-3 SEC team, right? And while I think you can go up and down a roster and you can see what products on the field, and I think that the talking heads will do that, so people keep tuning into their shows. Like, I think you come to Notre Dame knowing that when it comes to like a playoff time, like being in a conference is an easier path. You know what I mean? Like, you can go 9-3 in a conference and still kind of sneak your way in. I think the way this schedule has played out, like these two games on the front end, as much as you don't want to front load everything, these two games on the front end are what define our season. And if we drop both of them, I just don't know what we're able to do with the last 10 games that are able to show that we belong in the final playoff push.
Yeah. And for the crowd that gets on Notre Dame for not having a great schedule, it's like Miami A&M is a very difficult start to the season. It's like, man, you got to think some of these games are scheduled so long ago.
Yep.
So long ago. Like, I don't know when the Purdue and Arkansas ones were, but it's like those might have been seen as quality opponents. Boise State looks like crap, but I mean, this was like a game to watch, Boise State, and then they, got pounced by USF to open the season on the 28th. NC State, it's like you have your ACC games. USC, who the hell knows if they're going to be good or not?
Yep.
Right? They seem to typically give Notre Dame a good game. Even last year when USC was down, it's still a good game in the Coliseum, excuse me. And then BC, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford. It's not great, but I mean, again, you can't predict down the line like which teams are going to end up being good. You knew Miami and A&M were going to be two big tests for sure.
Yep.
But otherwise, like how many, and USC, right? You have like these three big games, and that's been the case for the past few years, Bob's. It's like Notre Dame was a big three. All right. It's like a Clemson, a USC, and then, one other, a big, or Ohio State, right? That I think that was 2023 last year.
Yeah.
A&M, USC, and NIU. I know there was one other big one. I can't remember now. This is gonna keep me up at night. Hold on, let me just look real quick. Who was the other big game last year? A&M, Florida State. It was Florida State. You can't predict that Florida State's gonna have an all-time stinker of a season. So, anyways, and
I think too. Listen. Look at that schedule in terms of conferences, right? Because I think that's a big part of the discussion. You've got 10 Power 4 conferences, 2 Group of 5, one being our longest standing tradition game at Navy or with Navy, and then the other one being Boise State, right? I mean, like, again, if we're playing Boise State last year, like, we're having a completely different discussion.
Yeah.
And so to me, the schedule, there's so much chance in that. And even in conferences, right? You look at within the SEC, you have teams that are playing the top half of the conference or the bottom half in any given year. Like, that just happens because you're scheduling years out. We can have another discussion about centralizing scheduling and stuff like that I think can come down the pike as, some of this, NIL and paying players really comes to fruition. But that's probably a postseason discussion more than an in-season one. I think it's just unfortunate that our first 2 weeks of the year, I think somebody actually just said this, right? Like, your first 2 weeks of the year are the biggest games. You don't have a season of development, of growth, of figuring out who you are. You're going out on the field twice, and your season can be made or almost broken in the first 3 weeks of the year. That's a tough place to be when you're a team that had such high aspirations going into the season.
Yeah. Yeah, especially breaking in a new quarterback, and it's just got like a new feel to this team, new D coordinator.
Yep.
So yeah, 100%. It's like the other team is facing some of this as well, but I feel like when you are the better team, it hurts you, right? Because you're not a well-oiled machine. It hurts you more.
Exactly right.
Okay. What's your score prediction, Bob? What do you got?
So I think that. I think that Notre Dame is the better team, but I think that Texas A&M is a scary opponent. I think that best case scenario, a team kind of gets out by a couple scores, and you might have to play kind of like that sandwich around halftime to either get back in it or things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and say, Notre Dame will put the ball in the end zone 3 times, kick a couple of field goals. They'll score 27. And I will put A&M at 21. 27-21 Irish. Book it. Was that too bad to do a score prediction? Did it pain you inside? What? No, that's me saying
it. Bernie says Irish 52, A&M 10. Okay, Bernie.
Your mouth to God's ears, Bernie.
I've got something like Notre Dame 31, A&M 17. There's just something about like this team. I under Freeman coming off of bye weeks, like the big environment, the night game. I think they're going to be absolutely amped. I think they're going to bring some things in, special teams. I think Notre Dame is going to force a turnover or two like they didn't do against Miami. I think the Hurricanes just had the one turnover on downs, but that was it.
Yeah.
I just think that Notre Dame goes and stomps them. I think it's comfortable.
I think too, right? Like if Notre Dame gets ahead, right? Like Doctor Strange a little bit, some of the possible outcomes. I don't think this is a quarterback that's going to be comfortable dropping back, right? And I do think this is a quarterback that you can rush 4, maybe a 5th, get some slower pressure. I know you don't want to hear that, Irish fans, but you can put people around him, and the big bodies of his offensive line backing up into him will disrupt his passing rhythm as much as, somebody rushing off the edge. And so I think if we put them in obvious passing downs, they have not been good on third down against their two opponents. They're 8 of 24 on the year against UTSA and Utah State.
Yeah.
So when they're in obvious passing situations, they are struggling to protect, and they're struggling, Marcel Reed, to get the ball where he needs to. And that's where I think we will excel. But we've got to put the pedal to the metal out of the gate and get ahead on this team, because then we can dictate what they do offensively even more.
Real quick, Jake Carr said last home game opener was Michigan 2018. Do you have thoughts on Notre Dame just opening up the season on the road? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you think?
Yeah, so I don't mind opening up on the road. There is something about going on a business trip and kind of getting after it. I always enjoyed playing in other people's atmospheres. Granted, I felt like specifically under Charlie Weiss, we were a little more prepared for the noise of stadiums than we were, under Ty Willingham. That being said, I think I share some of the frustration that I'm seeing in the chat, which is quite simply like having this front-loaded schedule. Like I love the fact that we might get a game day in week 1 or 2 or 3 seemingly every year, but I used to hate playing Michigan in week 1 or 2 because it felt like whoever won that game got prematurely vaulted into the top 10, and whoever lost that game, it kind of tanked the energy, for at least the next few games. And I always felt like, man, I just loved playing Michigan. I would have loved to have played them later in the year. Their conference really didn't allow that timing.
Sure.
I would love to see us find ways to get these more premier games in the middle or back half, or even week 4 or 5, rather than kicking off. If that is because these conferences are kind of boxing us out later in the season, then that's becoming a detriment to us being independent, because our big games have to be non-conference games for these other teams. And if the only place we can put them is early, then you're going to know what type of Irish team you have come week 3 every single year. And you just like to have a little bit more seasoning on the meal you're eating sometimes.
You paint with words. I love it. What do you think about this? Most wins against ranked opponents since 2023. Texas and Notre Dame leading the way with 10 apiece. Does that surprise you at all?
No, the top of the list doesn't surprise me. I'll say the bottom of the list did. Like Arizona, I didn't know Arizona had a football team. You know what I mean? Like I just I look at these teams and the conferences they're in, right? Like, Texas is obviously they're playing, with the exception of, where Oklahoma was last year, they're playing, kind of these ranked rivalry games now in the SEC. And obviously Sark's done well there. You look at Georgia, I feel like you'd expect to see Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. Seems like they can count on a win against Ohio State every year at this point in time. But when it comes down to the bottom of that list, like I didn't know Missouri was putting together top 25 wins, and I didn't know Arizona played any top 25 teams. So the bottom of the list was more surprising than the top to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I guess Arizona's probably beaten some like number 23 BYU or
right.
something like that. Yeah, I just thought this was awesome. That Notre Dame, like, especially with my role covering recruiting, like there's such a shift for Notre Dame being able to land recruits because of football and not just landing for recruits because of school. Like there's a lot of elite recruits that pick Notre Dame because, like, man, how important the education is to them. And, that's a perfect storm for Notre Dame. But I feel like more and more since Freeman's gotten here, it's like, man, they're able to sign more prospects who don't have elite prospects who don't have academics is the most important thing to them. They want to go to Notre Dame for football and for Marcus Freeman and Mike Mickens and those guys. Yeah,
well, I definitely think the narrative really around the country for what I'll say the general fan of football has changed for Notre Dame, right? Whether it's like the attractiveness of our coach or, whether it's listen, man, if you had that hairline, you would have done better. So I'm just saying.
Are you really talking about hair right now, Bob?
I've got the James Franklin hairline going on here, but I just think the way that Marcus Freeman has handled himself within the media, he's the most popular coach, not necessarily within Notre Dame circles. Maybe he is as well there, but I'm speaking like generally among college football. He's got the most respect externally. He's likable way more than Brian Kelly ever was. And so the likability of our coach, our ability to work with these conferences about the 12-team playoff and finding our place in there, people realizing that money in college football is not just the NBC contract, but it exists everywhere else. Like, a lot of the general college football fans' reason for disliking Notre Dame have really quieted down. Now, there are teams that can hate Notre Dame for a lot of reasons. Matter of fact, they hate Notre Dame a lot because of us as fans. But the fact of the matter is, like, to a high school recruit and to these families that are kind of stepping in, like, Notre Dame's academics become an icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Because they are playing primetime games. They are beating, top 25 teams. They are, providing for their players the way that all these other teams are as well. So the parity has brought Notre Dame closer on the field, off the field, dollars in the door with all of these schools that I think before NIL, we felt like we're outspending, or they were actually spending. And so I think it really brings Notre Dame to the upper echelon of recruiting because of what they're offering.
Folks, if you're just joining us, make sure you rewind, watch from the beginning. Some great stuff from Bob Morton tonight. And I got through. I took some medicine before the start of the show, and I think that definitely helped me get through this. Jordan flu game. I don't know if I had like quite the game-winning shot, like Jordan did against the Jazz, but I appreciate you all bearing with me tonight, and only one mute tonight. Hopefully we'll set the over under at 0.5 mutes for the post-game show and the show next Tuesday, and see how I do. So that is going to do it for this show. Folks, please hit the thumbs up if you have not done so yet. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel. We will be live next tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time, for the Notre Dame six-pack with Tyler Horka and Jack Sobel. Recruiting show, huge recruiting weekend for Notre Dame.
Big time.
With Texas A&M, might be the biggest weekend I've ever seen in 6 years on the beat. So we're going to have Steve Wiltfong, national recruiting analyst, talk about it. So more to come at Blue and Gold, this YouTube channel. So head to the website, blueandgold.com. Lock into this YouTube channel. And as always, folks, we'll catch you next time.
Go Irish.